Hello and welcome to Raising Anchor, your podcast and source for all things Rhode Island FC. I'm your host, Matt Entrican, coming to you this Thursday, June 26th. RIFC gets left out at low tide after Sacramento Republic comes to town, handing the Amber and Blue their 7th loss of the season. With this team still very much in the hunt for the Jagermeister Cup, can Coach Kano rally this group to take on their neighbors to the north in the Portland Hearts of Pine to once again prove New England Soccer Supremacy? Joining me is the one and only co-host, Mr. Jason Carey. Jason, how are you doing, my friend?
Doing pretty good. Been enjoying the Club World Cup tournament. That's been kind of fun. That Inter Messi game versus Palmeiras was kind of wild. The last rounds today, before we move on to the next one. But I kind of had a funny moment here when we were getting prepared for the show earlier in the week, and I sat down to start writing some notes. I had a mental block. I was like, wait, what happened? Who did we play? And I was like, oh, yeah. So it's been a while, I think, since that's actually happened to me. Kind of proves maybe how this game went to the fact that I'm already trying to pretend it didn't happen and just move on with my life.
Yeah, I don't know what's worse, the fact that we're finally getting over this high heat wave. You know, you'd like to see some hotness from the team right now, but instead we're getting partially cloudy and a chance of rain these days. It's difficult, right? Like, you want to talk, especially thinking about how great the last time we saw them was. Sacramento, the only team this season, by the way, that has to play us from the Western Conference, that has to play us both times at home, because they're the only team that we didn't rotate with, and we're headed into Sacramento to play at their stadium. Kind of thought that we were on the precipice of something great, something that was going to get built into momentum. And just as fast as we start, the ride is back over. And now we have to take on Hearts of Pine that, you know, if we reverse this narrative from our time playing at the U.S. Open Cup, it's the complete opposite. Whereas before we had nothing to lose, now we have everything to lose. And the Hearts of Pine are in a position where they could really do some damage to this club if Coach Kano cannot figure this out. And, you know, he's literally hamstrung, whether you want to take that as a pun or not, with all of the injuries that we're going to talk about tonight. It's an interesting time. It's an interesting time. We've got a lot of fans in the chat, surprisingly more than I would have thought after such a solid defeat. But, you know, that's Rhode Island FC for you. The fans, the community, they rally. And Chuck is reminding me, as he's spending time in Arizona, where I can only imagine it's 120 degrees right now. He's letting me know that I could hold his beer, because a 97-degree day, 1 out of like 5 that it could possibly happen in a New England summer, is the standard par for the course down in Phoenix.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, it was also like 98% humidity. So it was kind of the worst of like both worlds.
Chuck,
it's very rare that actually happens to us. Usually if it ever gets that hot, it isn't that humid.
Chuck needs to remind himself about those dry heats. You know, it's a lot different than them wet heats. But anyways, let's get right into this. This is going to be an action-packed show. A little later in the podcast, we're going to be joined by the Blazing Muskets' very own and From the Forest to the Tide Dirigo Union podcast member, Shawn Fecteau. He'll be joining us to give a preview a little later in the episode. But for the meantime, it's just you and me, and it's all Rhode Island FC talk. And let's start with the ominous post that Rhode Island FC put out today, with the crashing waves, with the what could it be on 7/24. Fun fact, you know, I wanted to make the joke, well, that's a Thursday. So clearly what Rhode Island FC is telling everyone is they're finally willing to support the podcast and let everyone know to check in on us at 8 o'clock on 7/24. Or maybe it's something else. Jason, before you found out the truth of this, did you have any other suspicions as to what it might be?
I'm not sure.
Striker announcement?
If you look at the
awning's going to be built above Centerville Bank Stadium.
So you look at the date, right? It's a Thursday. It's right before the Hartford, the Jagermeister Cup. So it'll be after, you know, the traditional derby, if you will, in the regular season. I don't know. It's hard to say, because you wouldn't plan out like a signing that far away, right? Like, why would you? That's a month away. Just announce him now. Like, you probably need him. With all the injuries. It could be
because he has to play in the MLS All-Star game, which we may or may not be going to. So, you know, is Lionel Messi finally confirmed Rhode Island FC?
I don't know. It's interesting to see what'll happen. Probably some sort of partnership, some sort of special announcement. I'm not 100% sure what they're trying to do there. I wonder if they'll give us a few more hints and leaks as we kind of go through the weeks to come.
I appreciate people asking, could it be a Taylor Swift concert? You know, Matt Jean writing, and I have a wave of excitement coming over me. While this has not been confirmed, it does align with earlier timelines that we had heard from the club on the addition of adding a third kit this season. They were late to the game due to some decisions between Capelli and the front office on how they could best get the kit out. And these things take time, right? Like once you decide to put one into production, it's not like there's a direct shipping printer that can just start, throwing these out to the masses.
Oh yeah, I imagine they're already like looking at next year's and like even have like mock-ups for like maybe this could even be in the future.
Yeah, there's easily a 3 to 6 month run-up time to produce these, get them shipped out, make sure that you have your supply chain in order and all your quality control. So while it has not yet been confirmed by the club, if I was a betting man, I would absolutely say that this is the alternate kit that we've been hearing a lot about. Additionally, so I would say that this is probably what we heard from other people around the club, independent of the organization, about this mysterious wave kit that was potentially going to get launched. I believe it was going to be called the Ocean State Wave Kit. And if you go and look, and
so no pretzel knots.
It's not a pretzel kit. It should be, but it's not. And I hate to give him credit because he'll lord it over us for a while, but FQB released some sort of presentation. Whether that was how he got that, I don't know, but it looks like it may be based off of the 401 state plate with the waves on your car. So there could be some combinations there. But with the beach and all the waves crashing and the wave in the post, most likely this is finally the third alternate wave kit. And based on those pictures, it looks like it might have a collar, like a gentleman's English football club, little blue on white. So exciting to see. Any kit at this point.
Will they do the same thing they did with the road kit? Like it'll have all the best beaches.
It should have potholes strategically placed that would map out all of the major traffic pain points within the state. Like there's no state outline, but you just know, like, oh yeah, that's the 195 connector pothole. I'm very familiar with it. So we should see what happens there, but it's exciting nevertheless. And it's probably going to be the only bit of exciting news until Shawn joins us a little later, because with the good must come the bad. And it's time to take a deep, dark dive into what is going on with this club, Jason. And I got to be honest, I've tried to maintain my positivity. You rightfully called me out when we were talking after the game, post press conference. Is this the worst game that Rhode Island FC has played this year? And you have challenged me every time I've said that. Like, you continue to ask if it's the worst game after each loss, but there's something to this game that just I'm not quite sure yet, and hopefully we can figure this out. Hopefully the listeners can figure it out along with us. But not only was this a 2-0 loss, it was the first time this season where, despite having the injuries, we played to a full strength squad. And not only did we fail to win, but we faced multi-goal loss in it. The only other time being the Detroit City match where, indubitably we had the red card. So like, that's what it is. It's the similar storylines, and it's those lessons where you think, man, is Coach Kano learning from these mistakes? Is he learning from these tactical defeats? And one would argue that, yeah, we can talk at length about the excuses of a depleted roster, but sometimes it looks like we're having the same failures, the same failings. Failure to create a defensive masterpiece when it comes to set piece defensing, failure to keep opponents outside of the box. We're going to really talk through that second goal because there's some breakdowns there. In addition to that, though, like now adding on to the complexity of it, our team looked pedestrian. They looked like they were traffic cones at times out there for Sacramento to just kind of run right through. And to make matters worse, we've now tied our all-time losing record in 2024 with half the season still to go.
So we'll never lose another game again for the rest of the season. Got it.
I mean, Coach Kano has never promised wins, but he's also never promised not losses. So if you can get that out of him, so be it. But I at this point, this team seems like they need to find a pivoting point. They need to find that direction that they want to take the organization. And we've looked for that Memphis 901 moment for a while now and haven't seemed to be able to find it. Where do we go from here?
It's tough to say. Like, after the first half, it was 0-0. It was kind of a close game. There was a few tight chances. I remember there was one where I think it's Jacker got in behind and sent a cross in, and ultimately Lee made the save. But then after that, you could see all of the center backs kind of yelling at each other, trying to point blame, like who was supposed to be catching who. So it definitely seemed like they were not prepared for the setup that was employed that night. Maybe with that many defenders, it becomes an issue where who's actually marking who, right? When you have 6 defenders on the field as opposed to traditionally 4 or 5. We've historically, at least this season, been pretty much a first half team. So it didn't look great, but I also at the same time was kind of saying, okay, still 0-0. There's still plenty of time. 0-0 wouldn't be great, like a draw. Like at this point, I'll revert back to the Draw Kings to at least kind of get some of that defensive solidity, because while this team has been fairly solid defensively, they haven't been great at keeping clean sheets, right? We still find some way to kind of make a little mistake here and let a goal in. That's kind of causing us these issues. But then, yeah, it was kind of that hope that kills you, right? You go into the second half 0-0, and Sacramento honestly tore us apart that second half. The first half, honestly, wasn't too bad. It was kind of, I could go either way, but they just ran straight through us that second half. And it's funny, you look at the possession stats for it, and for the second half, they heavily favor RIFC, but there's also really nothing that came of it. It was a lot of meaningless possession with pretty much no chances created.
And we've warned about that, right? We've warned that teams are starting to figure out that they are better off when they don't have the ball against Rhode Island FC, because they can't seem to transition the ball out of, at best, the middle third and get into a dangerous position. We talked on Monday at the mailbag, and for those that don't listen to the mailbag, I highly encourage you to go back and at least listen to the coach and Clay Holstead interviews. That's where we're going to post those from now on, just to save time. But we talked at length about how, since teams know that we're in a scoring drought and that we don't have a reliable, dangerous piece up front, that they're comfortable letting the battle be fought deeper into their part of the middle third or into their own third, because we just have this problem in the slower buildup of transitioning the ball into dangerous places. And when we do, like when you look at, think of Frank's most dangerous look of the night, or Chico's, both respectable places to get into, but those were single moments, and the XG on those is not really that great because those are hard angles to potentially score on. So if clubs can keep,
and those
us away,
also came from us being a little more direct in terms of transition, right? Neither of those were like, let's hold the ball around the box for a while and see what we can do. Both of those came from spells of a few passes and found us kind of moving up the field and creating a chance. That seems to be where RAFC does better. They did better that way last year. So it's just hard to see. I mean, obviously we don't really look at this and say like RFC played well to deserve anything, but also if you look at Sacramento, while they played incredibly well, they scored a goal from a free kick. And then they also scored their second goal was in transition with really poor, while it was very well taken, we were way out of position in the sense that I went back and watched it. I don't know what
you watched. You watched Pirano run through a star pattern of our defenders who just.
And you see that Mabika was at the center line?
I did, but also 5 defenders all running back. He's the lone person running into the box, and no one can collapse on him.
What all I'm saying is that they had one really good opportunity and a really well taken free kick.
Oh yeah, they had
so
4 shots.
They clearly beat us, but those free kicks are how many people can do that in this league? So they could have very easily been a 1-0 loss. I think our attack is basically dead at this point. I don't
do
know
not resuscitate. Don't give it mouth to mouth. Just let it die.
And that's the problem, is that sure, we can defend collectively fairly well as a team most of the time. Our midfielders can kind of control possession, but how does this team score goals?
Well, let's first talk about how Coach Kano set this team up to begin with, because that could be a major plot point here and what happened to this Rhode Island FC side last weekend. And this was an interesting one. I don't think we've seen this before. What did you call it at the time?
Oh, I mean, it was just a joke. Like it was like a 9-1-1 formation where, the goalkeeper is effectively a center back as well. You just play all defenders, one midfielder, one striker.
Oops, all defenders. Yeah. So walk listeners through what was the lineup that Coach Kano selected on game day.
Yeah. So we have Jackson Lee and net here. A back line here of Frank Nodarce, Rio Hope Gund, Karifa Yao, Aime Mabika, and Aldair Sanchez. A midfield here of Maxi Rodriguez, Grant Stoneman, Clay Holstead, Jojea Quizera, and then a kind of lone striker up there up top, the one and only Chico.
So first and foremost, everyone was asking from online, Discord, in person, why in the world are we playing with so many center backs in this model? When you look at it, 5 center backs available, technically 6 permanent defenders there in the sense of how it was lined up. And we asked the coach after the game, we said, hey, this is the most chop and change you've ever done in one of your roster constructions. And, he challenged back. Did you see my injury report? Did you see the players that I had available? Notably, referencing the fact that Zach Haribo and Amos Shapiro-Thompson now added back to the injury list. But Jason, the thing I want to ask you and look at this is, yeah, we can say that in their absence and with the piled number of players that still have not been able to return to the squad, that's all fine and dandy. But this was a defensive choice. Like, Kano can say that this was what he had to play, but there were offensive weapons on the bench that he chose not to deploy, whether he was playing for a tighter defensive game, a draw, I don't know what, but like leaving Noah Fuson and Joe Brito on the bench, that's a manager decision on game day. That's not because those players can't go out there and at least provide some aspect of a type of game if you're going to have to, find your alternates, find your substitutes to fill in for you.
Yeah, it's hard to pinpoint exactly where he was going with this. I maybe have some ideas, right? But so to set up this defensively against a Sacramento team who has been kind of struggling, right? They while they looked very clinical against us and the few chances that they got, they haven't actually been that way this season, despite like putting a bunch of goals past Las Vegas. They've kind of been mainly more relying on their defense. So setting up that defensively was maybe a bit head scratching there.
I mean,
but
Martin says it perfectly. When you say head scratching, we put 6 defenders on the field, and it was technically one of our worst defensive performances of the season. Granted, the goals came after Stoneman gets subbed out in the half with his injury, but still, like, there's something to be said about that, right? Like, did we overcompensate? We've talked about this pendulum and the way it swings at times for Coach Kano and how he deploys and sets up the team, or the priorities he focuses on. Sometimes it's the offensive components, sometimes it's the defensive components. Was this that reversion to the defensive nature, or like arguably Noah Fuson not having a great season, but deploying him over a 6th defender?
Yeah, that's the thing that kind of like is hard to see, because right, Noah hasn't done very well this season. He hasn't been kind of as effective in terms of the attack as we saw him last year. And then similarly, Brito has been incredible off the bench, and while he's had solid performances starting, I don't think he's gotten the same output that coach would have liked from him.
Agree with you.
It seems to be in a sense where he comes off the bench, he creates results, he starts, and it just for some reason doesn't happen that way. But you're right in regards to at some point with 6 defenders, like what kind of was the goal, especially after we came off of a win against North Carolina team, and a very good team who just won again this weekend, showing that they are kind of a real deal at this point.
I would never ask Kano this to his face, just given where I'm at in the doghouse with him right now. But I will ask you, is there anywhere in your mind when you see this lineup, knowing how out of form Sacramento is, do you think Kano set this up to just try to survive a 0-0 draw? Like, is there a part of the back of your mind that's like, go for the point you can grab and then maybe see what gets crazy if you can just hold on for a bit? Because it kind of feels like with such little amount of firepower moving forward. I mean, look at the stats. You know, you mentioned possession 63.7%. One of the highlights of this roster, Rio Hope Gunn goes out and gets the highest passing sequence in total passes in club history, either in its entirety or at least this season at 77 passes, 63.7% possession, 6 shots with just 2 on target, and both were the Chico and the Nadarce looks. After that, 0 big chances, 13 total touches in the opposition's box. Like we didn't do anything. We just got to the final third, entered it, said, "Hey, thanks, we're gonna go home." The streetlights came on. Kano knows how this team is playing. He knows the form his players are in. Do you think, like, just in the back, I mean, if you were Coach Connor right now, would you have set that team up and thinking like, "Hey, I'm going for the draw. Worst case scenario, we show our defensive fortitude, and we'll see what can get crazy when we bring on the Isaac Gang Kings, the Joe Britos, and the Noah Fusons in the 15 minutes left of the match?"
I mean, you mentioned that. I think it's very much a possibility in the sense of, right, look at what is going okay or moderately well for this team. It's been the defense in regards to, while they still have given up goals, maybe if you just throw more of them out there, kind of death by defense in a sense of not letting Sacramento actually create any meaningful chances or get past them. Obviously, it didn't work. Maybe if Grant Stoneman didn't get injured, considering the fact that we were able to keep them quiet for the first half, maybe that does end a 0-0 draw if he stays healthy. It's hard to say.
Yeah, no, and we can talk about it at all times. At the end of the day, the result is it's not a masterclass that anyone would want to watch. And there's a couple people that have now commented. I think Robert commented, casual fans that are expecting exciting soccer, they're not going to want to continue to see this, right? And I think that the only thing Kano has promised over the last 2 seasons is that soccer provided in Pawtucket would be exciting soccer, it would be entertaining, no matter the result. So, we kind of have to find a way. Kano has to find. I don't have to do anything. Kano has to find a way with the players he has available to make that transition. And let's talk about the injuries, because someone asked on the Monday show, why is this team succumbing to all of its injured players? We talked at length about what we could think it could be, in the sense of the more global aspect, like what happens to other teams around the world. We talked about Ange and how the Tottenham Hotspurs had trained their way to injuries and made the comparison that it feels like a majority of these are happening on the training pitch, at Centerville Bank Stadium. Then, people are like, it's got to be the turf. We don't know that. We don't know if it's the training regimen, it's the intensity of the workouts. It's something.
We have a new athletic trainer too. Nothing against our new guy. I mean, it's just like there's all these like weird questions of like, why is everyone getting injured this season, in a sense of,
and it's all lower body. Everything has been below the waist, whether it's calves, hammies, ankles, knees, like everything is lower body injury. And sometimes it comes down to things like diet, right? Like, what are the players eating? Do we have, and I'm not making any like dotted lines to this, but Chick-fil-A is a partner, right? Like, are they eating too many Chick-fil-A sandwiches that's bad for their muscle strands, right? Like, I don't know. I'm not a look at me. I'm not a dietitian, guys. Come on. We know where I stand on it. But the reality is, like, all those questions come into play. Like, what is it that's going on that has hampered this team? Because we had crippling injuries last season. We talked about that, but it was far and few between. These seem to be like going on and on. Like, these aren't 2-week, pauses. Zach Haribo has now been in and out of the lineup, 3 times this season? Mark Ibarra played the first 2 games and then disappeared. Like, Danny Rivera is now finally showing. Like, there's just a lot of questions here, and I don't know what that is, but it's going to cause problems for Kano. We needed him to get hot in this second half of the season. This is the time to start ramping up and peaking. And fair credit to last season, he got most of his players back. I think by this time, around July, he had everyone back except
today,
for Kofi.
6/26 is actually a year anniversary of when we beat El Paso. Right? It was 6/26.
So this is when it started.
Yeah. So we got that first home win, and everything kind of fell into place from there. Obviously, this season is a little different because we've taken away 4 home match, or not home, but we've taken away 4 league matches. Those have become Jagermeister Cup matches. So it's hard to have a direct one-to-one comparison. But although we got some more wins early on, it's not feeling like it's better than it was last year anymore.
Right. I mean, you have 4 non-league games where we've advanced in 3 of them and won, and then we lost to the Revolution, right? We won in our Open Cup match, we won 2 Jaegers, and we lost in the second Open. We've had 4 extra matches in comparison to that bubble chart from last year. So you're right. Like when you add them across all competitions, and again, I want to be clear, this team's not bad. We're still in the playoffs.
Oh yeah, I'm not
hanging on life support right now, but we're still very much in it. It's just like with these injuries now mounting, like when we look at this injury list later when Shawn joins us, I had to reduce the font to fit them all on. I've never had to do that before. And this is like talking at the beginning of the season where it was an issue then, and now it's somehow even more an issue now. So like these are problems to talk about.
We're still in playoff contention in 8th. I can't remember exactly where we were before, but I feel like we were in 10th place for like months. There was a split second last night where Indy went ahead against Tampa Bay and we dropped to 9th. But then Tampa Bay figured out how to score and put 4 past Indy. So
thank goodness. Thank goodness. So let's get into the overall match results. We talked about the defenders. We talked about what happens when there's too much defense and not enough offense. But, you know, first and foremost, we're going to talk at length here about Jackson Lee. The Rodrigo Lopez goal. Roro scores in the 55th minute, curling a free kick.
A Roro rocket.
Oh man,
it's what the USL championship guy said, not me.
We're better than that. But I want to ask, like when we look at that goal in particular, Jackson Lee has struggled this season. And if you pull back to the last 4 games that he's played now, because it's been 4 in regular season, and you compare it to the first 4 regular season games he got in 2024, I will tell you, just to like get this stat out of the way, Jackson Lee is actually improving in all of his metrics. I know it doesn't feel like it right now.
He had a shutout against Pittsburgh in the Jaeger Cup.
I'm not even adding the 4 performances he's had in addition to that. I'm strictly talking just his regular season comps here. But he has, when you look back to the first 4 games that he played in full time, like I'm not talking about like the substitutions in Memphis or the substitution in the Monterey Bay game, he had 2 clean sheets. He got smacked around by Phoenix and he got smacked around by Tampa Bay, right? In that same course of time, he's now been able to, and like just going through it, he's had 24 saves. He's allowed 8 goals. And when you look at just the championship, 14 saves in the first 6 matches. That was his 2024 stats. In 2025, he has 10 saves and he's only allowed 5 goals. We're not getting scored on as often, but Jackson can't keep a clean sheet for some reason in 2025. When you look at his distribution, he's up about 10% in both his short passing and his long ball, which I would argue long ball was one of the things that everyone said he was notoriously weaker than Koke at in terms of his distribution. Like he had to rely on the long ball, but we wouldn't always get the conversion, especially if a player like, JJ is not on the pitch. So he's improving defensively. It just doesn't feel like it. And he hasn't been able to earn himself a clean sheet in any of his performances up until the Pittsburgh game. When you look at that, you would say like, well, if you can't keep your, if you can't keep your gloves out of trouble, like, are you improving in the right directions? Is Jackson Lee a better keeper this season than he was last year? Or is there something wrong with the way he is playing? Because some of these goals, all of the saves are incredible that he's performed so far, but sometimes it feels like, it's a team effort to defend, but sometimes they may feel like a little bit like on Lee's shoulders.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Like when you throw some of those stats at me, you're like, okay, well, he's not doing too bad. I think part of the problem is that because we can't score and like effectively, lift the rest of the team up. Similarly, like, right, Chico gets blamed for not scoring and then Lee gets blamed for not keeping goals out. Well, then what about everyone else in the middle? What are they doing?
There is no midfield in this team right now.
So it feels, and this is just based off vibes and appearance, it feels like he's just not maybe as confident as he was last year. And maybe just part of that is due to the overall performance of the team, right? It is a team game. And if everyone's not on the same wavelength and everyone's not kind of all bought in and they're maybe feeling the struggle, I mean, it would be natural for him to kind of maybe, doubt not only the performance of his team, but himself. I don't think in any way, shape, or form he's been bad. I just think there have been a few opportunities where, maybe he could have done better there. And that's just he's still young. There's plenty of time for him to develop. So,
Matthew Jean, going back a minute to the defense and the tactics, it seems like we were trying to wear them down in the first half after them playing midweek and then kill them with the attack in the second half. But as we know, that never happened. I'm going to argue with that. While we did bring a little bit more intensity in the first half, it was interesting, at the same time, we didn't get a shot on target for 30 minutes in the first half. There was a period of time where Sacramento, and they were interesting in the way they staggered their press. I've never seen a team do it. It's usually like all, and then it becomes nothing when they have to conserve energy. They would high press for about 10 minutes at a time and then back down for about 5 to 6 minutes and then re-engage the high press just to make sure that Rhode Island FC never got comfortable and they're playing out of the back and trying to build up their sequences. What's weird is like, I don't think Rhode Island FC had any hustle in this game. I have heard people all around the internet talk about they don't have pride, they don't have passion. I don't subscribe to any of that. But I will say I noticed at times that this team felt a little lethargic. Like they would get beat and they would break down. Like when you look at the goal from Pirano, I forget who loses it. It's on the left. I think it might be Sanchez. Sanchez gets the ball stripped from him. Cicerone is running in, taking on it wasn't Mabika then, was it Yao? Anyways, I don't even remember the point, but the point is like the players start trailing behind and like they know they can't catch Cicerone or Pirano, so they just jog. Like when you're already down a goal and you're in front of fans, I don't care if it's 90-degree heat, 85-degree heat, like it's the whole Krifa Yao thing all over again. Like if you get beat, like still run your heart out like that, because like fans aren't going to be necessarily forgiving, but then when they see that like you got beat and you broke down, like at least trip and fall, then do the goalkeeper jump and dive. And I think that was a bit of a problem is like this team in its performance just looked slow and pedantic and just like they just didn't seem like they were running on the night. And I don't know what it is, but if you told me that Sacramento Republic was going to hustle that much,
said worn out from overtraining.
maybe I don't know, but like you look at it, like going through the stats, like you said, Rhode Island FC 76% possession in the first 15 minutes of the second half. Like, did we actually try to take it to them in the second half? I don't know. Or did Sacramento, once they got up, go, hey, here you go, here's the ball, we've done everything we need to do. We know that you couldn't put a goal in this net if it was the crossbar challenge at halftime. Like, whatever you need to do, you need to do. And it's becoming a problem. Like, clubs now understand that if they score first, it's like playing a video game on easy mode. Do you know how many times Rhode Island FC has failed to score this year?
I'm just gonna guess without trying.
We have 14 games. We've now played 14 games. Do you want to guess?
I'm gonna say 6,
7. We are a 50% scoreless team, or failing to score in the championship. Guess what team is worse than us?
Hartford.
See, that was a trick because you fell for that last week. You got Hartford right. No club is worse than us, Jason. We are the worst club in the USL Championship right now when it comes to the ability to score a goal.
That's a shame.
That's a really bad shame. And when you look at it, not only is that a terrible stat, but now in comparison to 2024, in 2024, we were scoring a goal on average every 54 minutes. It's now over 96 minutes on average. Oof. So that's, I mean, you have to have that stat when you have half of your games where no goals are going in, and we haven't exactly strung together a lot of multi-goal performances when we do win. So yeah, it's a big problem. And on top of that, like, because we're just going to keep piling the stats on, we haven't won any of our last 8 matches when we don't score first. Like, we talk about that 19 match streak where if we score first, like, we're basically invincible. But when we get scored on first, haven't won since Tulsa back in 2024.
Oh man.
So it's like to me, it's like Rhode Island FC right now, kind of like a bully, right? Like, they can go around, push everyone around, throw their weight into things, but then the second someone punches back, like, you've seen through the guys. It's all smoke and mirrors right now. And it's a tough place to be.
It's like, whoa, you can't hit back.
It's a tough place to be. It's a tough place to be for sure. Is there anything else that you want to talk about in this game? I honestly, everyone knows they were all there. The fans, they didn't get a rainbow. They got fireworks, but it was after the match. But is there anything that you want to cover? I have one last thing to talk about, and it's the tactical changes. But is there anything else that kind of like you even see as something that needs to be discussed? Or can we just put this one in the vault and move on?
I think we can just move on to the tactics there. Just kind of continue on.
All right. So then I'm going to ask two questions. One, we talked about this on the Monday show. You had mentioned that Kano doesn't know what he's doing, and that's something that you're going to have to deal with Coach Kano. But
they're going to take that out of context. He doesn't listen to us, but like someone will.
I just need him mad at you and not me. So you had mentioned, though, rightfully, that Coach Kano Smith is a student of Pep Guardiola, and that you had suspected that perhaps Kano's system is too advanced to play with the players and the quality of players we have, at least to the sense of they haven't had enough time to acclimate to it, or that they're the wrong players for the type of system that he wants. And we see it. We do see Coach Kano express his desire and his appreciation of the players he has on his roster that can play duality, right? Like can have different roles in the team. So when we saw Sacramento, and I'm not saying they're a good team yet, maybe this is their moment and they'll go on to see it, but I did see a team playing as a team. And we talked at length about how it seems more like Rhode Island FC is playing as collective, like smaller subgroups that move in triangles, but
like some free jazz where everyone's supposed to like do some solos and riffs, but it's all supposed to come into this, incredible symphony that isn't really panning out right now.
Right. They're playing scat jazz with no music, and a coach like Neil Collins is using sheet music, and he's conducting a Beethoven masterpiece, a classical.
Just sticking straight 4/4 standard tuning. He's like, just get it in there, lads.
So we've seen the success of that, and maybe that's unique to the way that Rhode Island FC was trying to play with both its possession and this individual talent. But that is all we've seen from Rhode Island FC this season. So I will ask you this, and this is the real question to kind of set up the building blocks from what we talked about on Monday. If we know that, and we are not smart people, why people listen to us, I don't know.
Please listen to us.
But please listen to us. But we are not smart people. But if we can recognize that, the Ryan Martins of the world, the Dennis Sanchez's of the world, the Brendan Burks of the world, they're going to figure this out. And when they see teams beat a club like Rhode Island as soundly as now, Sacramento Republic have, I think about the Bob Lilly win. Like, I feel like the keys to defeating a team like Rhode Island are very out there. What will we need to see, like, Coach Kano do to change his tactics? Or does Kano not need to change his tactics, and these players just need to be better? Because and I don't say that as a sarcasm. I mean, like, because we know they're all kind of off of their targeted benchmarks for the season. Is this a he has to adapt a type of change? It doesn't have to be a massive change. It can be subtle tactical changes. Or is this just, the beatings will continue until morale improves? And by morale, we mean the quality of performance from these individual contributors. Which one is it? It has to be one or the other. You cannot, this would be insanity to go into the next game and say, it's okay, we played really good, the results just didn't go our way. That's not good enough anymore. Like, we have to start thinking about how this team can find goals. I'm fine with a weaker defense, and then we win 4-3. We win 3-2. I'm fine with that. Maybe Kano's not, because he enjoys his defensive prowess, but like, something has to change here.
Yeah, it's hard to say, and I'll just mention for those who didn't listen to the Monday preface, I have nothing but respect for Kano. I am not a coach, like you said. We don't really know what we're talking about, but we also have watched quite a bit of soccer in our time, to the point where we have a general understanding of the game, in the sense of where you look at our defenders, you look at our midfielders, all great in possession, all great passing. When you get up to the front, it's like players who are like poachers or more direct, not typically players you associate with like death by football type passing styles. So it just feels like they're either they haven't got it yet and it hasn't clicked, and that's why we just can't score because they're still learning that system, or maybe that's just not their style.
But isn't that a coach's responsibility that, like, we're now 14 games in, primarily mostly the same players? Like, where is his internal threshold of, like, if they don't get this by this date, like, we're going back to the 3-5-2, or we're going to a much simpler version of like U.S. men's national team circa 2006? Like, what do we have to do?
I don't know. I mean, I kind of get the vibes from Kano that he is kind of a stick to his guns type of guy, and that he will take this to as far as he can keep it going. I mean, in some sense, if our forwards were just scoring, we probably wouldn't be talking about this issue as much, right?
I mean, yeah, we'd find another thing to talk about, but like, I will say that 1 week Kano says we're always playing good because he's coming off of a win, and that when you look at the stats and the metrics that they follow, like, the team is performing. And then on the weeks that they don't play, he talks about a lack of consistency. He talks about a lack of quality. He talks about a lack of big chance creation and differentiation. And then, he talks to us and says it's just down to luck. Everyone wants the result. I remember his quote: everyone wants the result. We're not always going to get the result. That is a fair point to make. But then tactically, you're saying that this is working. My challenge back is, what happens when it's not actually working in the most important line in stats, and that's the score. That's the table.
I mean, we don't have much time left, right? We're in 8th place right now. It's June 26th. We've got July, August, September, and October. 4 more months of matches to kind of figure it out. I think we're getting pretty close to the threshold of, if we end July and we're still, something isn't at least trending in the right direction, like we haven't scored a few more goals, we haven't picked up some more points to keep us in contention, at that point, I think it's too late. And then I don't know if you have to look for, how do I look in terms of, do I try and salvage this by changing my style? Or do I say, okay, let's build upon this, and just, at this point, this is a sophomore slump, and we're just going to look to try and build for the future, come out next year, guns blazing, and all my players will have learned the style by then. And then at that point, maybe I can even assess whether or not I need to get a few different changes to the roster. Obviously, that's kind of like worst case scenario. I don't know. It's hard to say, because we just were praising this team not too long ago for a very good, home win against North Carolina FC. And then now we're all doom and gloom after getting spanked by Sacramento.
And I'm not doom and gloom. I just want to see the team learn its lessons and show consistency. Clay Holstead said it the best. They haven't strung together 3 wins in a row this season. I don't think they've even strung together 3 games where they've scored. With 7 matches where you've not scored, I think mathematically, I don't necessarily believe that they've actually put 3 together where they found the back of the net. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm not doom and gloom.
I'm not either.
I'm not prepared to say that this team needs to be written off in any way, shape, or form. But if Kano is going to be on the wrong side of the playoff hunt, like, then he's really going to have to be looking at focusing on this Jagermeister Cup and making sure that he wins it all, because he's going to need to bring home hardware to us very, very needy Rhode Island FC fans. And I can't think of a better transition when we talk Jagermeister Cup than to bring on the one and only Mr. Shawn Fecteau. Shawn, how are you doing, my friend?
Well, I'm doing well, Matt. Thanks for having me back. Certainly enjoyed my time on the show here, first go around, and doing the U.S. Open Cup deal. And wouldn't you know, it's time for some more fun cup action.
I always think, like, we get the privilege of, whether it's Jason or I, getting to see you on also the Blazing Musket roundtables, where you are a writer and contributor for the Blazing Musket. That's kind of how our partnership started and our friendship. And then on top of that, you're also the podcast host or co-host of From the Forest to the Tide, one of the few podcasts that I have to begrudgingly say is better than us in every shape, way, and everything. I get jealous every time I see you guys on there. It's like, oh, how do we do what you guys do? It's so good. It's so much fun. Shawn, give us a breakdown. What's been going on in your life? What's been going on with the Hearts of Pine?
Yeah, so doing a lot of following of the Hearts of Pine. I knew when the Hearts were when first come into the league, I knew it was gonna be a big part of my life. But I guess you don't really know how much of a part of your life it's gonna be until you're in it. And I guess I'm kind of in that point right now where I'm like, wow, this is definitely a big part of my life right now.
We just had that moment the other day when we were like, work was busy and we're like, how do we have time to do this? Like,
people have no idea the sacrifice podcasters make in their lives. No idea.
It's a true story. I mean, you think you have a general idea before you get into it, but once you start getting that, second month, third month vibe type deal, you're like, wow, I didn't really know exactly what I was getting into. But no, back to the Hearts. The Hearts have been doing pretty good as of late. And last month, in the month of May, Coach Bobby Murphy, it was voted, Coach of the Month for USL League One. The Hearts went through the entire month of May, not dropping any matches, so a lot of draws, a few wins, and that's kind of what the Hearts did in the month of May. So here we are at the end of June, getting ready to go into the third match of Jager Cup action against Rhode Island FC, and the Hearts have learned how to put the ball in the back of the net. And they've proven it over the course of 2 games to show it's not a fluke. Our defense is basically, I would call our defense right now probably average. We are going to probably concede a goal, maybe 2. But we're not completely out of control. Not RIFC, excuse me. Wrong R. Richmond. Richmond is what I'm looking for, where we'll score 4 goals if you score 3. If you score 2, we'll score 3, that type of deal. Where we are not at Richmond levels here on our defense. Our defense is certainly able to do what they need to do to keep us going down the road. But the big positive is we've learned how to score.
I appreciate that you think our offense is so strong right now that you have to worry about that. I'm pretty sure if you know how to put 4 defenders in your own box and have them move for 90 minutes, that's going to cause us enough problems, let alone how we figure out how to get inside that. So I appreciate that. Jason, let's talk through these standings and kind of get our listeners caught up, because it's been a minute since the Jagermeister Cup last happened. Let's talk through that.
Yeah, so Rhode Island FC are currently sitting atop Group 4 with 2 wins from their first 2 Jager Cup games, beating Westchester SC 4-1 and a 1-0 away win to the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. Despite not faring well in the regular season, Hartford is actually tied on points with 6 points from their first 2 matches, just losing out on goal difference there, making this a very important match, as there's only 4 matches total in the kind of group stages here to get to those knockout rounds. And so remember too, there are no draws in this.
There are draws. Let's be honest.
Straight to penalties. It becomes a win.
Still a draw. It's still a draw.
If it's tied at full time, straight to penalties.
Do you get all 3 points if you go to penalties, Jason? No, you get 1 point for the draw and 1 point for winning the penalty. So there are absolutely...
You get 2 points?
You get 2 points. Wow. I think only one team in the Jagermeister Cup has done it so far. I think it was like the Naples Realities match. There is an opportunity for some shots at glory, if you know what I mean.
I don't remember that being the case, but if that is, okay. I thought you just got the win from there. So...
No, so if you do win the match in penalties, you do get 2 points to Matt's what Matt was saying. And if you lose, you still get 1 point as if it was a draw. Even though you may lose on penalties, you do get 1 point in the Jagermeister Cup.
But to your point, you can't draw. Technically, you can, but technically you can't.
Technically.
Yeah.
But there has to be some sort of draw victor.
That's
right. For those teams that love drawing, it's a whole new angle on drawing now.
Circa RIFC 2024.
This would be the perfect format though for these 2 teams who have historically gone at it, knowing that we had the draws in the preseason. This would be that perfect time where like neither team gets to declare the ultimate win. It's just it comes to a draw, and then let's get honest, Rhode Island FC screws it up in the penalties, like we have always done in our takes on that. But Shawn, talk us through how is the Hearts of Pine been performing in their Jagermeister matches?
Yeah, so the Hearts kind of really kind of gave away the points buffer right in the very first match against against Hartford Athletic, basically losing 2-0 at the away match down there at Hartford. Hartford had the newly acquired Jack Panayoto from on loan from New England, and boy, he ran wild on us. We didn't really have much of an answer for Jack, and he went on, scored a brace against us, and 2-0 win, and right off the bat, right off the bat, our point buffer, if you will, in the cup match that you're allowed, some 3 points or so or whatever is gone, evaporated right in the very first match. But Portland ended up recovering. At home, absolutely dismantling Detroit 4-2. In a Motown beatdown at Fort Fitzy, our Trinidad and Tobago international Natty James and JT Camara pulled the strings for the Hearts, combining for an assist double brace on the night. And really, that was really the first night since our very first match in history, where we went against CD Filands, an amateur club there in the U.S. Open Cup, that we scored 4 goals. And we did it against a championship side in Detroit. And really it started opening the eyes of the possibilities of these Hearts and what they can do offensively, where, the first part up until that, our defense was primarily the one getting us through most of the matches, would scratch out maybe a goal here and there. And we would get those draws that we were speaking to earlier. And I think we had one win prior to, but it really started to open our eyes and what this team could do with the new players that we had coming in from the visas taking so long, and what this could look like offensively for the Hearts. But coming into Centerville Bank Stadium, like I mentioned before, the Hearts are playing with no net. Our buffer's gone. So it's a loss here at, playing you guys tomorrow night is going to absolutely smash our chances of advancing out of the group stage. A win on penalties, it'll keep hope alive, but certainly still a bit of a dent in our chances moving on, even if we do win on penalties and get those 2 points, as discussed earlier. But rest assured, the Hearts are certainly going into tomorrow night fighting for 3 points. No doubt about that.
Jason, did you catch how casually Shawn dropped that? Oh, it's the second time we've shown that we can put up 4 goals in a match. Do you know on record how many times we've put up more than 4 goals in the lifespan of our club?
Westchester and Louisville.
There's one other.
Oh yeah, of course, goals galore.
Correct.
So
there's also technically the Open Cup against Charlotte Independence where it went 4-4 as well, but that is not a normal thing. I like how Shawn's just like, yeah, we're gonna score in droves, like no big deal. Come to us, Shawn, when your club scores 8 against an opponent in regular play. Okay,
that's probably going to be a while. It's probably going to be a while.
Interestingly enough, you talk about your chances in the table, and I look at it a little differently. I look at the current positioning of Rhode Island FC. Honestly, these 3 teams well suited and probably couldn't have picked a better way to schedule the Jagermeister Cup drama. But, really, if Rhode Island FC wins this game outright, it pretty much puts to bed any chance for them losing the Group 4, because they're then going to play against Hartford. Hartford would have to get their result this weekend and then beat Rhode Island FC at home. And that's not something Hartford Athletic knows how to do, is beat us. So when you look at it from that standpoint, I feel like it's being drawn in the stars already. Like USL is praying that the Hearts of Pine take a to the death, draw a game, and then into penalties, win the penalties. So we only get 1 point from the game. So we have to get the win against Hartford at home to raise the 6. I'm a superstitious kind of guy, and I just feel like that's already being written in by the commissioner in the playbook, right? Like this is what has to happen, so to speak. But I will ask this, since Kano is back to somewhat of a depleted roster at the moment, do you imagine he'll solidify his position in the table? Or do you look at him saying, hey, like, I have to play some of my rotation in depth, so I might as well? Like, could we see the emergence of Kevin Vang get into this roster? Like, is there a possibility? Or, Jason, does Kano have to set himself up for success? Because this may be the only hardware he wins this season.
I think he's definitely going to have to set himself up for success here, especially to come off of this, kind of, depleting loss against Sacramento. And because we asked even when we asked Clay about it, like, oh, in terms of a cup match, like, how do you view that? And he's like, at the end of the day, it's just another game. Like, what that game is a competition in regards to, like, you could still build form from a cup match, right? So RIFC needs a result here. They need a positive game to kind of get themselves back into gear after that, like, stumbling against Sacramento there.
And it's not like these clubs aren't familiar with each other, right? Like, whether or not this is a Jagermeister Cup match, these teams now have technically seen each other 4 times this season in 2 very competitive friendlies, first in Bermuda, then at a non-disclosed time at a non-disclosed place at Centerville Bank Stadium back in the preseason. And then, of course, now the Open Cup and into this now Jagermeister Cup for their 4th appearance. Jason, overall, what are the attitudes between these 2 teams from the Rhode Island FC side of things?
I think that RIFC will know from their match against them, or I should say multiple matches, right? Like when they had a couple of preseason friendlies, and then, of course, the only matchup that mattered there back in up in Lewiston in April. It was very fiery match. RIFC came out ultimately the victor. But Hearts of Pine really took it to them in that second half. Both teams seen players sent off. I think it was a proper fight there. And I think there's a lot of respect between the 2 teams. While then you look at another USL League One team like Westchester, who he kind of easily just swatted away. Hearts of Pine showed up and really put up a good fight. So I don't think they're going to take them lightly here.
And Shawn, what did Bobby Murphy learn from this game? What did the players learn from that result in the Open Cup?
Yeah, so kind of what we learned here in the Open Cup, it provided kind of match day validation, really, to the players and the coaches and the supporters of this club, that we can compete and win in these cup matches against championship sides. Knocking Hartford out of the U.S. Open Cup and then having, that great match with you guys there that Jason was just touching upon. And, we learned that the grit and resilience and the willingness to work for the team that Coach Bobby Murphy, prioritized so much when he was going out and looking for players to build this team was very much on display on that high school field in Lewiston, Maine, there in front of us through that Open Cup competition. And down a goal, down a man, time waning on the clock, it didn't matter. The Hearts were going to keep on coming after you. Whether it was CD Filings or Hartford or RIFC, they were going to continue to press, and they're going to continue to try to get the ball back. And when they got the ball back, they were looking to go vertical and try to get a scoring threat or try to put it in the back of the net. And, that's it's just everything that Bobby mentioned he wanted this club to be. And to see it so early on, with still not a full roster. We still didn't have Masashi Wada. We certainly still didn't have JT Kamara. Of course, Mo Mohammed, of course, wasn't even thought of at that time because, we still had a healthy right back. Still more pieces of the puzzle still had to come into play. But the core of what Bobby Murphy brought into that team and what he told us he wants this team to be and reflect the grit and the resilience that honestly all of our New England teams really should be showing, because that's just this part of the country. To see that all come together and reflected back to us in that competition was pretty cool to see right off the bat.
Now, from what we know of the Hearts of Pine, it was a team that Murphy constructed around a high-octane counterattack. Is that still the same tactics, or has Murphy had to change his ideology based on the quality of opponents in the league or just learnings from the players that he's been constructing the roster around on this team?
Yeah, so we are very much a counterattack team, no doubt about it. We will hold the ball in small bouts of possession to maybe give our guys a little bit of a breather for, a few minutes here and there. But most of the time, we are looking to counter. And when we do get the ball, we're not going to be doing a lot of horizontal passes back and forth. We're going to be looking to go vertical and trying to either get a shot on goal or put it in the back of the net inside of about 6 passes. That's typically what we're looking to do.
So the complete opposite of what Kano ball is these days. Should
Perfect.
work out great. We'll see how the rock, paper, scissors reaction is to this one as well. Let's get into these injuries because it's going to be a second here. I'm going to hold my breath as I try to read all of these out loud. Currently, Rhode Island FC has every single one of their players listed as questionable, and this is because all of them have now reached that milestone of the 27th through the July 1st timeline of when every player was supposed to be made available from their lagering injuries, or they're players that we don't yet quite know the ETA on, so we have to list them as questionable because we don't know their status. So Hugo Bacharak is questionable. JJ Williams will be questionable. Mark Ibarra will be questionable. Koke Vegas will be questionable. Amos Shapiro-Thompson, questionable. Zachary Harivo, questionable. And Grant Stoneman, questionable. Gentlemen, we almost have a injury-ridden starting 11. We could almost
pretty
play
good injury 11.
our own injury 11. This is wild. Like this is and like in one scope, this is a terrible thing. And then like we could find out that a majority of these players could be activated for tomorrow. And I mean, obviously all of our predictions here in a minute would be thrown out the window, but it could make for some really excellent news headlines and dramatic football. But this is not a good place to be in if you're Coach Kano Smith right now.
Definitely not. A lot of those are big name players who are expected to, help put up results for this team. And this team has been struggling. So we really need to get them back. I think, we were just talking earlier about like where does Kano go from here? I mean, if we can get a period of time where everyone is healthy, maybe we could see some actual brilliance from this team, but that's yet to be seen.
Or just get a 25-day loan for some strikers and just see what could happen from the top of the box. Shawn, what's going on in the Hearts of Pine space?
Yeah, so just recently, Michelle Poon-Andron out with a broken hand. Coach Bobby Murphy mentioned that he'd be out for probably a week or so, probably to, maybe get a cast on it and get everything shored up. And of course, we don't need hands in soccer. So as long as it's good, getting banged on and all that sort of stuff a little bit out there playing, he might be out there with a cast or something like that with a broken hand, getting some minutes in. And of course, Azad Liadi with an abdominal strain, certainly going to be out on this match. So 2 on the injury list for the Hearts of Pine. We will see Patrick Langlois coming back to us after a sprained ankle that kept him out for, I'd say, a solid 4 weeks. So I think we're going to see him in the match. We'll talk to that here in just a little bit. So that's 1 coming back to us, but 2 going out.
Speaking of how we'll have that roster set up here, Jason, looks like Jackson Lee is probably the only reliable one that we'll have in the net. And then we talked at length about this. We're looking at this as a 4-4-1-1. You could call it a 4-2-3-1, depending on, again.
Yeah, you just push Frank and Joe J up, and it's just a 4-2-3-1.
Yeah, Kano doesn't like formations. He likes structure and play style. But we've got it as Aldair Sanchez, Aime Mabika, Karifa Yao, and Rio Hope Gun on that back line. And then Jojea Kozera out on the left wing again with Taimu Okiyoshi and Clay Holstead in the double pivot and Frank Nodarse out wide. I assume that Maxi Rodriguez is somewhere in the mix, hovering around that 10-9 area to try to link up into our lone striker in Chico in this system with a bench of Isaac King, Noah Fuson, Joe Brito, Kevin Vang, Cole Dewhurst, and Danny Rivera, along with Will Meyer. Jason, a lot of talk earlier this week. Should Will Meyer get the start? Because now Jackson Lee has played 8, maybe 9 games already this season. Could be another 1 or 2 under his belt if Koke is not ready 100%. Should Will Meyer get the nod because this is a Jagermeister Cup match, because that's what you're supposed to do? Or has Kano already selected his keepers for his tournaments and he's locked in on this?
No, I think you stick with Jackson Lee. You rarely ever see a third keeper actually play. They're usually there just for the vibes. like Scott Carson or whatever, just to get Champions Leagues and retire.
Hey, Nate Silvera dressed for the USL Cup final. Okay, that's not something Jackson Lee can say yet.
So yeah, no, I fully expect Jackson Lee to be in net. We know that Koke will be healthy within some time, and then Jackson Lee will get his rest. And as long as we can continue on in the Jaeger Cup, Jackson Lee will continue to get some more opportunities there.
Do you imagine that coach will put a player like Taimu in and go for the defensive piece versus having a Noah Fuson or a Joe Brito? Like, should we anticipate more defense here against this Hearts of Pine squad?
So I don't think that's more defense. If anything, I think that's right. You need to be able to control the midfield to pass the ball forward. And Taimu is very much similar in a style to like Mark Ibarra, how we talked about earlier. He's not an incredible like offensive threat, but he's very comfortable about receiving the ball, looking for an open man, and kind of recycling and moving the ball forward there. And then not afraid to get in there, chase people down, and go for a tackle. So we've seen that double pivot, unless coach all of a sudden decides to bring the 3-5-2 back out again. But even then, I would argue you still need those two holding midfielders. I'm pretty sure Taimu's going to be in there. Could we see Noah in place of Frank? Maybe. We guaranteed this to be wrong, with the exception of probably Jackson Lee, Chico, and a few others.
So this isn't even a formation guess that you want right. You want this to be wrong, because why would we want to actually get one right at this point?
I mean, I'd be happy to see this lineup out there. I mean, is it going to be? Who knows?
Shawn, walk listeners through the Hearts of Pine setup.
Yeah, so Hearts of Pine going to be coming out in their typical 4-2-3-1. Coach Bobby Murphy not really straying too much from the 4-2-3-1 this year, with very few exceptions in the league. So in goal, we're going to have Cash Oladapo. We saw him play in a man-of-the-match performance against Detroit, standing on his head, keeping quite a few out of the back of the net. We did give up 2 in that match, but as stated before, we scored 4. So too much action for Cash in that Detroit game for my taste. I would like to see him maybe see a fewer shots that he saw in Detroit. Certainly appreciate Cash's quality, keeping him out of the back of the net, but I'm just fine with keeping him a little less busy in this game. So Mo Mohammed, our right back, is going to start for this match, in my opinion. We also have Samuel Malamaki Camacho starting at right back. We got Kamali Green, the Temple grad, is going to be our left center back. And, of course, a very familiar name to Rhode Island FC fans, Mr. Nathan Messer will be our left back in the back line. Our central defensive midfielders, Masashi Wada, a very versatile player from Yokohama, Japan. All 3 levels of the J League over in Japan that he has got experience in, and he comes over to us. And of course, you guys saw a piece of Masashi Wada there for just a little bit, and he can play either a number 10 or he can play a number 6. He can play any spot in the midfield. So look for him to kind of move around with Nathaniel James, which is going to be our starting cam. And basically swapping off in creative roles. Wada may end up dropping back into a double 6 right beside Patrick Langlois, coming back to us from injury with the sprained ankle that I spoke about a little while ago. 4 weeks out, coming back to us now. Mr. Ollie Wright up on the left wing. He's going to be a guy that's looking to get in behind the defense and looking to be a recipient of some of those creative passes that are threading through the back line and possibly over the top from Masashi. And we got JT Camara, a very shifty stop-start type of individual that'll be looking to try to run horizontal down the back line, looking to open up some gaps for some of the creative players and attacking players to run through. And our man up top, Titus Washington, which played against RIFC in the second half of the Open Cup competition and actually put one in. That goal there in the second half up there at Lewiston, Maine, had Titus Washington's fingerprints all over that one. So that is going to be starting 11 for Portland Hearts of Pine.
I like that you said that almost with a public address announcer vibe there. So well done. Well done.
He said it with such confidence too that like this is locked on. He knows.
Yeah, certainly not locked on. I would like to think I've got a 70% accuracy, if I may be so bold. But
you got to get into your second season before the numbers start mattering, Shawn. You got to get the second season. So I wanted to ask with this lineup, and I don't have I don't have it up, so I'm kind of referring and leaning on you here a bit. But in terms of overall composition, comparing this match to the Open Cup, you mentioned Washington. I remember Messer having some dangerous looks in terms of set piece kicks in the second half of that Open Cup match. But how much of this roster is turned over in comparison to what the squad was just a couple of months ago in that other version of a cup tournament?
Yeah, so new names for RIFC supporters is Natty James in the cam. I'm going to start there. He is a Trinidad Tobago international. He wears number 9 when he's playing for his country. He's a small number 9, if you will. So he's not really a guy that's going to be right up top in the true striker formation. He's going to kind of Bobby calls him like a 9.5. So he's definitely got the quality in shooting, the technical ability. But he's a little bit smaller for what you would normally see in your number 9. So he's very dangerous out and around the edges of the box. Very much a creative player. In the Detroit game, he was threading some beautiful balls in between the gaps in the back line to running attackers, running onto those passes. And so I'm looking for him to try to link up with Titus Washington or any other attacking players. Him and Wada, I think, are going to do a lot of the creativity here for the Hearts. And the other piece there that is new for the Hearts is the combination play of Natty James and JT Kamara. In post-match after the Detroit game, he kind of made reference to both of them being left-footed players and having left-footed players kind of thinking alike. So it was the left-footed connection, as we joke, in the post-match of the Detroit game. And so you're going to see JT Kamara and Natty James, if they're both on the field at the same time, looking to find each other and being very creative in open space and trying to get in and attack the backside of Rhode Island.
And I think about the result from that last time these two teams squared off. Do either one of these coaches, do you think that they'll feel a necessity to tinker with their roster tactics? Obviously, this game came down. It's one of the closer. It's probably one of the best Open Cup matches of that particular round, in my opinion. And that's not with the bias of how much I appreciate these clubs. Do you think that either one of these coaches is thinking, I'm gonna have to pull some kung fu trickery. I'm gonna have to figure out a different way to make sure that my team comes out on top? Jason, we'll start with you and what Kano has to do.
I mean, Kano is really hamstrung here in regards to his roster selection. So there's not a lot of options. I think he will go back and look at that tape and kind of see what happened there second half when Hearts of Pine really kind of stepped it forward and took the match to us, to kind of see maybe if there's any tweaks that he could kind of make there, or adjustments, if you will. But I don't think that he would change too much, especially, this is one of those matches where RIFC should be winning this, right? They are the championship team with more resources, the bigger names, if you will. Granted, it's only a small sample size of 2 matches, but RIFC has outscored USL League One teams 6-2. Thank you, Patrick McKenna, for that stat. So I think that they'll have to go in with some confidence and kind of really prove to themselves that they are in the championship for a reason. And in the same regards, I imagine Hearts of Pine will kind of have a chip on their shoulder in the sense we're here to prove that we can play against the quote unquote big boys.
Shawn, do you agree with that? Or with all of the new additions and these players that weren't even available last time around, does Bobby Murphy already have all of the tinkering he needs to be unpredictable in this match?
Yeah, I think he's got a relatively versatile roster where if plan A is not working, he's got players he can put in for plan B, and even, dare I say it, a plan C, that he can try to see what is going to work on the day for the players that get put out there and the game plan for RIFC. So it's my assumption, and in the starting 11 that we just went through for the Hearts of Pine kind of reflect my thoughts of, it worked against Detroit with the speed and the creativity. And I think he wants to see if that is a good recipe to cause some problems for the Rhode Island club, right? And maybe some of those big boys in the back, see if they can match up against speed for a good 60, 70 minutes and see if the legs fall off. Maybe that's a piece, right? But he does have the ability to kind of sit back a little bit and be more truly counterattack. And so if building up down the right-hand side with Natty James and JT Kamara isn't quite working, we can always try the left-hand side with the tried and true Nathan Messer and Ollie Wright hookup. And coming down either the right side or the left side, we still got Titus Washington up there on the front. That is going to, as we saw back in the Open Cup, get out in those channels. And in the first half, if you recall, against the RIFC up in the Open Cup, he was kind of just beating and banging, trying to strength on strength of your big back line. And, he even said in the post-match on that game that, he was kind of learning that, maybe that's not the way to beat those big RIFC center back, strength on strength. Probably not the best way to go, right? So he started running at shoulders, running out in the channels and out in the wings and trying to create space. And, lo and behold, he put one in the back of the net out on the edges. So, yeah, I think we've got enough players and enough plans where we can come at it a few different ways. I think our defense on set pieces and corner kicks have gotten better. But you guys are certainly going to be a pressure test for those set pieces for the Hearts defense.
I was about to say, well, if you think that we were big then, we've only gotten bigger with signing 6'5" Aime Mabika. So we've only improved in the size column, but set piece wise, I don't know if we're actually going to be the pressure test you think. That's probably one of our biggest Achilles heels this season is our inconsistency around set piece defending. Moving into the next kind of comment, you'd mentioned Nathan Messer kind of, starting to activate here. We didn't see him last time. Fans from last season will know who he is and the type of player. A lot of people wanted to see him get more playing time while he was with the Amber and Blue, but it didn't quite manifest. But we've seen his success both in the Open Cup and even some of the damage he did to us against us in our Open Cup face-off. How has he transitioned? He wasn't a starter then. How has he transitioned into this kind of leading man role on the left side? And how has his link-up play unlocked Ollie Wright? Because for all intent and purpose, Wright is off to the races lately with his goal scoring.
Yeah, he certainly is. And, Nathan Messer is certainly a large piece of that. If you look back into some of the goals and up into the build-up and even a couple of his goals I can think of right off the top of my head, that Nathan Messer is a big part of Ollie Wright scoring. The other big part of that was the over-the-top passes from Michelle Poon-Andron, which will not be playing in this match. Some deadly balls from Michelle Poon-Andron. But basically, Nathan Messer is our starting left back, tried and true. The only way he would not be starting is if he was hurt. He's a staple for us on our left back role, and he has, as previously mentioned, been a big part of getting Ollie going and Ollie getting in the back of the net. And we interviewed Ollie Wright. I dare put time to it here. I'm going to give it a shot. Some month and a half or so ago. Time flies when you're following a soccer club like this. But basically, Ollie mentioned that sometimes you run across these players. Sometimes that you're like, yeah, if you watch them in front of you, like, yeah, that's exactly what I would do. And yeah, that's exact. And they just start linking up and the sharing a mind, if you will, or whatever. So they don't even really need to talk too much to each other. They just know each other's body movements and what they're going to do, because they would do the same thing. And they're getting to the point now where they're becoming dangerous to that respect. And it certainly makes that left side a little bit more lethal.
We've seen now, this will be the second match, Azad Liati not available. First one was a red card, now an injury. He's, I think, your highest scoring forward goal scorer, not including wingers, as a more, through and true striker. Will this impact him not being available for this match? Like, how big of a blow right now is it to not have Liati available? Or has this team found ways to score when he can't make it on the pitch?
Yeah, so we have found ways to score. I believe Liati has scored a couple of goals for us so far this year. But his play up front and his savvy, being in the league now, coming back into USL League One, he just his positioning and moving around and trying to free up other players around him is a big part of, in my opinion, what Azad Liati does. Yes, he's got that lethal finishing, which we saw when a ball came in from Ollie Wright, his ex-Huntsville teammate, now rekindled here on the Hearts of Pine, where Ollie laced a ball in. It had some pace on it. And Liati basically was shielding off a defender on his back and just angled his right foot. And there was enough pace coming in on this ball that it basically just bounced off his foot and went up into the top right-hand corner, and the goalkeeper had zero chance of trying to save that ball. But the biggest thing I see with Liati that I've seen so far this year is just basically his positioning on the pitch and opening up opportunities for players around him. And that will be missed. Certainly in a game like this, we will miss Liati.
And Jason, I'm going to ask you this question next. I look at so many similarities that this Hearts of Pine is going through, like we did in our first 2024 season. I'm going to ask you, and then Shawn can bring it home. But do you feel like the Hearts of Pine are the real deal yet, or they haven't really been battle tested? They haven't gone through their Memphis 901 forged in the fire moment yet.
It's hard to say. I've watched some of them, not nearly as much as Shawn, but like when I see them, I think that they look like a young, exciting team. I think that, they are scoring goals, but they're still kind of down there in regards to league. If I remember, it's like 10th place right now. So I think that maybe they either need to continue scoring more goals to kind of get themselves some more results to climb their way up the table, or either shore up the defense there. I think they're in this kind of weird state right now where both of them are going well, but not well enough to shine in some regards to take them to that next level. So one of those, I think, needs to either they need to continue to score a bunch of goals, like put 4 past people so they can climb up the ranks, or just shore up that defense.
They haven't had their Texoma moment yet, where I'm pretty sure Texoma started the season in the worst possible way. They start winning and then they fire their CEO. So I don't quite know how that works, but you guys just need your Texoma moment, I guess. But how do you respond to that, Shawn? Obviously, it comes from a place of love. It comes from a place of wisdom, as we've seen. We know what you're going through. You're doing so many things well as a club, as an organization, as a community, better in some ways than Rhode Island. But like, do you feel like there's a little bit of imposter syndrome there? Do you feel that this is something that will change directions for you guys and be able to make a strong run into the playoffs, or are you still in that wait and see kind of moment?
No, I think Jason kind of hit it pretty spot on. We are right at that precipice of we are, right starting in the month of July for the Hearts. Much like, those northern teams, we all understand how the front end of the season goes for us northern teams, right? We're on the road a lot, right? And we are getting into the point of the season now where starting in July and going to the end of our regular season, which is in October, so 4 months, we are going to have a minimum of 3 league home matches every single month from here to the end of the year. So as I talked about earlier, the Hearts are starting to learn how to score, right? and we've got the bones of a pretty good defense. And, there's still a very serviceable defense right now. We're talking, maybe they let one in, maybe they let two in, but nothing where we just completely blow up, right? So if you have a serviceable defense and you have a offense that is now just learning how to score, and we're getting our creative players back from international duty and healthy, and we're getting ready to go on a run of 4 months of steady diet of home matches, I think we are at that tipping point right now after we get out of the very last few days of June here, where we are going to have a very real opportunity to stack up some points and start charging up the table and make ourselves well into a playoff position for USL League One.
If only Rhode Island FC was going through this like 5 out of 6 homestand situation and picking up points at home. If only we knew what that was like. If only we knew. All right. Well, then I want to end it with this, at least in terms of the storylines. I have been on record that I do not believe in must-win games unless we are at the mathematical conclusion of a tournament or into the playoff hunt and like that magic number. I do not believe any game, even if it's from the optics, that it's a must-win game. Fans will continue to live and survive. The season will continue to live and survive until it can't. I get a lot of grief from that, Shawn.
I'll literally die if we lose.
But I want to know.
Won't wake up in the morning. It's like it'll be all over.
If you guys believe that this is probably the first can't lose game for Rhode Island FC this season. And there's a big difference because I go back to something I said at the beginning of the episode. When we played the Revolution and the Open Cup at home, we were playing with house money. If we lost, we're supposed to lose, right? That's a higher profile team with a bigger budget, bigger talent. And if we could upset them, it was going to be amazing. But if we couldn't, it was going to be okay. It wasn't going to feel good, but it was going to be okay.
Sure.
In a kind of reverse order now, we are the superior team in terms of payroll and, talent.
Yep.
Is it damaging to the brand if we do not pull this win in front of fans at Centerville Bank Stadium, knowing that this is a quasi, New England derby of sorts? I know it's not the same relationship that we have with our little brothers to the west of us in Connecticut, but there are some stakes here and there are some expectations, and the fans have not been treated to too many goals from Rhode Island FC, nor have they been treated to too many wins. Is there devastating consequences that, despite this being a Jagermeister Cup match, are there devastating consequences if Rhode Island FC doesn't outright win this match?
I think it's possible, because I also think a lot of the casual fans who are trying to get bought into this season, and here's our brand new shiny Centerville Bank Stadium. You don't know where Smithfield is. It's more than 12 minutes. So you're finally going to come check out the team. They won't even know that, where Hearts of Pine plays in another league. They'll just say, oh, they lost another home game
to the Portland Timbers that have had a name change.
Yeah. So at that point, they'll just be like, well, that team's no good. I'm not going to waste my money to go there.
Valid point. Shawn, what do you think?
So in terms of damaging, I would only sign on to that to the point of it's just because of the run of form you guys are currently in right now, and only point to that and just that. For the angle or the perspective of a championship club losing to a good USL League One, I don't think that will take the shine off a championship club like we all maybe thought it would at the beginning of this whole deal. Seeing enough teams going against each other for USL League One and the championship, I think everyone has kind of come to the conclusion and recognized and kind of come up on plane, if you will, with a walking knowledge of good USL League One teams, and a good portion of the championship sides are pretty much on level pegging for a large amount, more so than not, if you will, right? So, but because of the run of form that you guys are currently on right now, probably not the best time to lose to a USL League One side. So it is possible there could be some level of damage if RIFC sees a loss at home against Hearts of Pine. Yeah.
And I think Shawn makes a great point there in a sense of go look at the Jagermeister Cup with Charleston. I'm pretty sure they have 0 points. And I don't think they care because, as always, they are doing pretty well in the regular season. So if RIFC was doing better in the championship and then we lost to Hearts of Pine, oh, well, it's a cup competition. We'll live. We move on.
Right.
So 2 lightning quick questions. One, these kits were released as like basketball concepts for the Jagermeister Cup. Question for each of you. Would you buy your respective club's kit? Would you buy the opponent's club's kit? And which one of these is the superior kit? Jason, we'll start with you.
I actually do like those. They're kind of cool. I obviously would favor my own team, but I think that's kind of a cool design there from Hearts of Pine as well too.
Would you buy it?
I mean, like in this economy, no. But like if I had money, sure.
If USL recognized the what we're doing for the league and gifted all of us with these kits, would you gladly accept it and wear it with pride?
Yeah.
Okay. Shawn, how about you?
I like the colors of the Hearts of Pine. I would go only as far as that, the white and the black and stuff like that, and the red. I like those types of colors, but that's about as far as I'm going to go with it. The lighthouse down the side and just the basketball type jersey type deal. It's not for me. It's not something that I would wear. So no, I would not purchase it. The one that I would like the best, I'm probably going to stick with the Hearts of Pine, not just because it's Hearts of Pine, but just simply because I like a black and white and a red, maybe a little bit of a green color like that. Those are the colors that speak to me. Certainly, I don't think I would walk around with that orange looking.
It's
RIFC.
amber, sir. It's amber.
Amber. Up here in Maine, maybe you'd maybe pass off as Hunter Orange in the fall, perhaps.
Perfect. I mean, technically, then that's a safety pick because you're going to get shot hunting moose in Maine. But with this, you'll be safe. So you've just declared that the Rhode Island kit is a superior kit. You've also told me you're not a suns out, guns out jersey kind of wearing guy. You don't like the sleeveless look. We can't take one of the Hearts of Pine's current kits and just get rid of those long sleeves and just have you showing off your muscle guns.
No. There was a day and time that I would certainly go out and wear jerseys and stuff like that. But I think my jersey days are pretty well behind me. But hey, you get a nice little 3/4 pullover. I'm your man.
Stop bragging about things that we can't. Our merch team is suffering. Okay, a lot of things are suffering with our club, but what's not suffering? Score predictions. 71% of fans still are forever faithful in Rhode Island. 7% understood the assignment and knew that this game was possible to draw, and 12% believe that the Hearts of Pine are going to come down and remind Rhode Island FC that it was luck that got them through that Open Cup advancement. Gentlemen, Shawn, we'll start with you. What does Hearts of Pine need to do to get all 3 points, or maybe just 2 out of this match?
Yeah, so like I talked a little bit earlier, going through the start 11, Cash Oladapo, in my opinion, is going to start between the sticks for the Hearts of Pine, and at the back line and 2 CDMs in front of those center backs has got to help the guy out, right? He can't be standing on his head, swatting away ball after ball after ball and keeping the Hearts out of trouble. He took really good care of us in his man of the match performance up at Fitzpatrick Stadium. But we also need to take care of our goalkeeper, and I'm talking about Cash because I feel he's the one that's going to start tomorrow night. We really need to be closing down when we have RIFC attackers coming in or around our box, closing them down. If we need to double up and shift someone over, making sure all those assignments are tight, and we need to help Cash out. The second thing I think that we need to do is just, try to, and I talked about it a little bit earlier, is, making space in the back line, and whether that is Titus spinning off from shoulders and running out into the channels and trying to pull someone with him, or, Cash and Natty winning those one-on-ones and putting a little concern into some of the defenders and needing to pull people over and doubling up on them and maybe creating some spaces for those angled runs, an Ollie Wright angled run and a Masashi Wada trying to find him, running into the box and a little one-on-one with the keeper. Water is also, when we talked about Michel Poon-Andron doing those, deadly passing over the top on a dime that's like next to impossible to defend, like just above the hairs of the head of the defender. They just can't quite get to it. And, it hits the ground in front of Ollie Wright, and it's got enough backspin on it that it sits up nicely for him. He has to do very, very little to get it under control. Masashi Wada certainly has that in his bag of tricks, and he can certainly do the same thing in replacing for Michel Poon-Andron. So, opening up space and creating space for those attacks is certainly something that we need to do. And, the final thing is very simple, easier said than done. It's the hardest thing to do in soccer, is you got to be clinical, and you got to put it in the back of the net when you get your chances.
Ain't that the truth? Jason, what does Rhode Island FC need to do to get all 3 points?
6 shots, 2 on target against Sacramento was not enough, right? Hearts of Pine has not kept a clean sheet since April 5th. They need to test that back line. They need to test the defense. I don't want to call out any specific players, but our attack really needs to show up here. We've seen that the defense can, for the most part, get what it needs to do done. But the attackers need to go out there. They need to take some chances. They need to take shots. It's honestly as simple as that. If we can get a decent amount of shots going, we've seen somewhere between that 10 to 15 range. We know that RIFC can score a goal, if not 2.
Agreed. I think the physicality will come back into play. I think that this team will still continue to dominate in that aspect. They need to use it to their advantage. We haven't seen the high press as successful as of late. I think they need to re-engage with that, which may mean putting some players further forward and relying on the defense to do what they need to do. Because when the Hearts of Pine were under pressure last game, they led to some counterattack opportunities and some mistakes that Rhode Island FC was able to collapse on, but that's not going to happen a lot. The Hearts of Pine have learned their lesson to a certain extent. I saw in the predictions, Shawn has us down to losing after we go down a man again. So I respected that, Shawn. Producer Torin thinks that this needs to be a statement win. So like you, Jason, we got to get numbers up in the attack. We got to put some goals in. We got to show fans and remind them that New England bleeds amber and blue. And it's going to be, look, no matter what, it's going to be a fun match. And I know that these two communities are going to come together, which is rare, but these two supporters groups, we're one happy New England family to a certain extent until those 90 minutes happen. We're mortal enemies, and then we come back together. So that's going to be exciting to see. I want to quickly get to the weather reports, and then we'll give each of you your last 90 seconds of fame here. Make sure to check the weather all day tomorrow if you're traveling down from Portland or if you're just waiting to leave for the game a little later. Right now, rain is allegedly going to be happening in the morning, and then by the end of the afternoon, it'll all be kind of dried up and gone and broken with some scattered clouds and partly cloudy, high 60s. But you guys know it's Rhode Island. Wait 5 minutes, and you're going to be in the wrong gear all over again. So whether it's rain gear, summer barbecue gear, just have everything in your car that you need in between.
So tank top under my raincoat. Perfect.
Yeah. Perfect for Pride Night, by the way. And curious, maybe if it does rain, we'll get another rainbow just to kind of bring all of it together. And reminder for everyone that it is Pride Night at the stadium. They do have a Pride tee. It's $30. They've told me that $4.01 of each shirt purchased will be donated to AIDS Care Ocean State. There's also going to be that special Pride Ale. We had it at Pride Fest in downtown in PBD. That was fun. It's good beer. It's going to be at the Guild Beer Terrace in the southeast corner. So make sure you explore and enjoy all of those different things. Reminder, parking lots open at 4 p.m. for those traveling down from Maine. The stadium gates will open at 6 p.m., so 1 hour before for that kickoff at 7 p.m. And if you're not making it to the match, the game will be on Nessun Plus, ESPN Plus, and 790 The Score. If you're watching from Maine, I highly encourage you to put a smart speaker on and play the Rhode Island FC broadcast. They're very fair and equitable towards the opponents, and they've been doing their research as the Hearts of Pine are a New England team. So, Shawn, what's the final word from your side, and where can fans follow along on your journey in this podcasting and soccer writing space?
Yeah, so you can find me at Shawn Fecteau, du@gmail.com. I do have that, so because I have noticed with doing a little bit of crossovers here with the Dirigo Union that some people are kind of a little bit harder to find and get a hold of and try to set up certain things with. So I decided to go ahead and open that up. So certainly wanted to throw that out there on the platform. If anyone's looking to do anything with Dirigo Union or myself, you can certainly reach me there at Shawn Fecteau, du@gmail.com. But you can always find me over on Blue Sky. Same thing, Shawn Fecteau over there on Blue Sky. And watching anything Dirigo Union, and for the Hearts of Pine, we have a Dirigo Union channel over on YouTube, and certainly Spotify and anywhere you listen to podcasts, you can find us there as well. But about 95% of our stuff you can easily find right over on the Dirigo Union channel over on YouTube. But Matt, I got one question for you. So I know we're doing a little bit of firework competition most of the time. Is there any fireworks scheduled for tomorrow night that you're aware of?
I am not aware of that. I think that they are relying primarily on this being a cup match, and I think also with the reschedule and getting prepared for the Major League Rugby final the next day. I don't know that there are any. I know there are 2 more fireworks matches, but with this club and what they need to do right now, knowing that there's going to be such a spotlight on New England soccer in the community, anything is possible right now. Truly.
Right, fair enough.
Do you know something I don't know? Is that maybe, are you going to be bringing fireworks and doing something in the
Hearts? They're looking to bring some fireworks. That's what's
What happens in the parking lot next to Apex stays at the parking lot next to Apex. So I can neither confirm nor deny. All right, Jason, what's your final word and get us out of here?
At the end, I'm not looking for a win. I just want to be entertained. I would love a win. I want a goal or 2,
Yeah. And maybe a shot at glory when they go to penalties.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Shawn, for joining us. It's been fun as always. Make sure to check out all of our friends over at the Blazing Musket for all of your New England soccer coverage, including RIFC and the Hearts of Pine, and that's at theblazingmusket.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Threads, TikTok, and Blue Sky at RIFC Podcast. We have an Instagram at Raising Anchor, and then you can always check out that website, raisinganchorpodcast.com. See y'all tomorrow or today, whenever you're listening to this. Anchors up.
Anchors up.